Hello, everyone, and welcome to No Code North at the Northern Showcase. Thank you for spending the next hour with us. I'm Penny Olorenshaw, a former stage manager and now a Webflow developer in Trenton, Ontario, and I handle communications for No Code North.
I'm Jeremy LaRue, a writer-director turned Webflow no-code, low-code developer from Vancouver. On the No Code North team, I'm the resident automations guy and runner of the streams.
Hey, I'm Maggie Monceau. I'm a Webflow developer based in Toronto with a background in film and television. In our No Code North group, I take care of our designs and our gather space.
Our mission at No Code North is twofold. First, to build a community of Canadian Webflowers and no-code enthusiasts, and secondly, to showcase that Canadian talent to the rest of the world. We meet Fridays at noon Eastern in the Lodge, our gather space, and once a month, we host the Northern Showcase here on our YouTube channel.
So let's say hi to the folks in the chat, and there are lots of people showing up today. I think Skylar is a pretty popular guy in the community. So let's say hello to Robert and Zach. Hey, Isabel, and to Corey, Corey Flowman, and who else? Victoria's here, Michael Bettridge, and lots of folks. It's great to see you all here.
Right?
And
look at that background.
If you have questions for Skylar, please put them in the chat and we'll either ask them during the interview or at the end.
On today's Northern Showcase, we have the pleasure of welcoming Skylar Kitchen. Skylar is a former architectural designer and current tech nerd with a passion for creating unique digital experiences through motion, interaction, and creative coding. His current role is Senior Designer Community at Webflow.
Please help us welcome Skylar. Hey, Skylar.
Hey, Skylar.
Hey.
Hey, guys. Thank you so much for having me on the live stream.
Yeah, it's nice to, we're super excited to have you.
Yeah, as I was saying, I don't think we've actually personally interacted before, so I'm really looking forward to hearing your story.
Thanks. Yeah, me too. Yeah, I feel like I've talked to you before, but I guess I've just been listening to you talk on various live streams.
As I do. Anyway, Maggie, I think you found a photo that we can share here.
Yeah, it was hard to find pictures of you, but so the one I found is from State of Flow, and yeah, we'll bring that one up as our little icebreaker. Hold on, there we go. Look at that.
Such a good time.
It's kind of cool because there's so many people from the community on this one, but tell us a little bit about that picture.
Yeah, State of Flow was in St. Petersburg, Florida last year, and it was really like the first time I've met any Webflowers in person ever. I mean, it was a big shock, honestly, because I've been, working kind of in my own little bubble, like until that point, just like barely communicating with people on Twitter, and then like all of a sudden, I just realized that there's like much larger community than I originally thought. And it was like real people that were doing the same things as me. It was just, I don't know. It was just an amazing experience. Yeah.
And what a shirt. What
a
shirt. I gotta say, you've got good taste in shirts. Thanks for joining the plaid team today.
Yeah, I just pulled this out of the closet. It's a little wrinkly, but
no one can tell.
It's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
So yeah, I don't know if we want to talk about Canada before we dive in, or if we dive straight in. But yeah, usually we also do a little Canadian banter. But I know you haven't spent a lot of time there, but is there anything that you miss that you had in Canada and you don't have anymore south of the border?
The poutine, obviously.
Yeah.
Let's see. I mean, there's a ton that I miss about Canada. I miss the beautiful winters, although I lived in Winnipeg, which was very, very cold. So there's not like a whole lot to miss there. I mean, all of my family, obviously. It's just so much harder to visit them when it takes like an entire day to get there and like several $1,000s, flight tickets. Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely sad to, I don't know, every time I visit, everybody's aging like rapidly. I'm just like, time go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, family is obviously the big one that I miss.
Yeah, fair enough. Oh yeah, I hear you. My parents or my family is very far away as well. So yeah, it's kind of a weird one to be completely derooted to a different continent for me. But yeah. All right, let's dive in then. So first, I was gonna talk a little bit about your background and career-wise and personal background, and I was doing a bunch of research, and I didn't realize like you've kind of lived a few lives already. I feel like you've been busy. So from my research, I've kind of put a few fun facts together about your past to summarize everything up to now. Not everything, and it's not in chronological order, but so as a kid you lived in a Fargo-like province of Canada. That's how you described it on Emily's podcast. Tinkering with Photoshop and web development at an early age. You have since lived in 2 countries. I mean, they're stuck together, but it still counts as, that's pretty cool. You've studied a bunch of stuff. So what have you studied? Computer science, architecture was your main thing, virtual reality, 3D modeling. Am I missing anything?
Yeah, that was it. I mean, all of them were all of the 3D related things were kind of tied into the same degree, but
right.
Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't say I'm more educated than like most people. Like I have an architecture degree and then like a computer science half degree that I just gave up on.
Yeah, that's still more than a lot of people. Yeah, and then I also found some interesting kind of weirder stuff. Like you once built a small facility for wild animal surgeries in the woods. What's that one about?
The animal surgeries. Yeah. I guess that was like the first project that I designed and then built. I guess it was like probably the only one that I actually physically built and designed. It was an animal husbandry shed in like the middle of the woods, like completely. There was not even like a road to it. We had to like walk like 30 minutes to get there. I don't know. It was an awesome project. I don't know. It's super rewarding to be able to design something and then build it, and then like actually see it in use. Kind of like being a web designer and then being able to design things and then actually build them and then see people use them. Yeah.
What kind of animals were there?
They were predatory animals. So there was wolves was the big one. Yeah. And then there was like a few like predatory cats. Like I think there was bobcats and like ocelots. It was for the NCSU, North Carolina State University Veterinary College. So they had like a lot of like various animals that they didn't want the students to know about, which is why they were
hiding it away.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I didn't actually get to, I got to see the animals. I didn't get to like interact with them.
Yeah, fair enough. All right. There's also another random thing. I love going through people's LinkedIn profile. That's as much stalking as I do, because either people don't always update them or they don't really look at them and stuff. But from that, I've seen that you were also in the military, where according to your LinkedIn profile, you once commanded an army of 4 people. Did I get that right? Did they forget a 0, or did you command an army of 4 people?
No, just 4. I was a squad leader in the National Guard.
I'm just picturing the cutest army of 4 little soldiers. I know the army is no joke, but I thought that was just kind of a fun thing on your LinkedIn profile. They should have just left it at like, or led an army and then just left the number.
I've led a lot of different lives that don't really have a lot to do with each other.
Yeah, it's
6 years in the National Guard.
It's random and really, really interesting. I mean, that makes people more complex and stuff. Another interesting thing from your LinkedIn profile, in the top 3 skills of that profile, you have not 1 but 2 endorsements for your efficient use of Microsoft Word.
Yeah, I saw that you endorsed me. Thank you.
I also went, now you have 3. I endorsed your, and I went a little bit blindly on that one. So don't let me down. I hope you have the skills to back it up and that you figure that Microsoft Word. Who endorsed you for Microsoft Word?
I have no idea.
But it's your top skill. You're a very talented, very smart person, and the top skill of your LinkedIn profile is Microsoft Word.
It's really what I'm best at.
I feel like there's but anyway, so now more seriously though, I have a few questions about like what you studied and stuff.
Sure.
So there's a lot of no coders, and I was just curious to know, when you were in computer science, like what, for us no coders, what does it entitle? What did you study there?
Yeah. Sorry. Where did I study? Where?
When you were doing computer science, like what?
Oh, yeah, that was at NC State. Yeah, I was. So I have a very. I'm somebody who just like follows their interests without like thinking too practically about how like the timelines work. So I spent.
Zach, by the way.
Oh, nice, thank you. I spent 3 years in architecture school. I don't know. I was just feeling like kind of burnt out because I was like giving it like too much of my like time and mental sanity. So I was like, I've always wanted to be a designer that could actually code as well. From a young age, I was like really interested in computers, and so I was like, okay, I'm like burnt out. Like, let's just pursue some of my other interests. So I went to computer science for, I guess, like 2 years or so. Maybe it was like a year and a half. And I also joined the Army. So I was like, you know what? I'll just do all of my interests. I'm just going to try and get everything done that I want to, like in my 20s. Yeah, so I was like doing both of those things at the same time. I spent like 6 months in training as well for the military before just like having another realization that I can't spend like another 4 years like studying or like 3 years studying to get my degree. Like I'll just finish my architecture degree, even though like maybe I don't want to be an architect. So I got my degree, spent 4 years as an architect before, like really reconsidering like what, if there was anything that, I actually wanted to do with like my original interests with like computer science. So it kind of led me to, just make a realization that I should pursue like my interest that I wanted to do for a long time, which was be a designer that actually builds, and like no code gave me the opportunity to do that.
Because was there not enough design when you were in computer science, and then you thought maybe there was more of that, and maybe is that why you didn't finish that degree?
That's right. When I kind of expected that there would be more people like me that were interested in design and development in computer science, but I really didn't find anybody, at least I think in my class, that like shared those interests. I think they were like really, really into computer science. And I was like, in my head, I saw computer science as like a means to like build out my designs, where like design was the primary interest for me. So I just didn't feel like I fit in there with like everybody else's interests. Then it was like the classes were not something that I was like particularly interested in. Like algorithms are cool, but like I just want to learn how to make beautiful designs and implement.
Yeah.
And
Not
like
visual enough.
you don't need a computer science degree for that.
Yeah, fair enough. And back end and front end, even though they work hand in hand, are just so different. And just two completely different interests, that's for sure. So so you did your degree in architecture, then part of a degree in computer science, and then you were already done with the architecture. So then you went into being an architect. Is that right?
Yeah. So I had I think another year of architecture just to finish that degree, and then in architecture you have to have a graduate degree as well. So I finished my 4-year degree. I went to work as an architect, and then I went back to school to get I guess it was like it was a grad degree, but it was like a quick one, so it took a year. It was just like the intense year, and then went back into architecture. I traveled a lot. I worked in Philadelphia, and then Durham, North Carolina, then back to Philadelphia. Now I'm in North Carolina again.
And as you described it earlier, the middle of nowhere.
I'm in the middle of nowhere now. It's the first time I've not been in a city, I guess, like my whole life.
So talking about your career as an architect, I have a few photos of your work that I saved there to show. All right, it's in there. Because it's really cool. It's here. There's one here. Look at that.
Oh, thanks.
We haven't learned how to make it full screen yet, but we'll just awkwardly hide behind it. But like, how cool! This is amazing. This is a rendering, right? And then
yeah.
Did it get built eventually, or?
No, this was just like all the projects that I have on my portfolio are just like personal projects. Mm-hmm. So I have like a whole other like architecture portfolio of like actual work I built. But
yeah, beautiful, eh?
Thank you. Yeah.
I'll get another one. I'll get them
sure.
all out of the way, but this is really pretty too. It kind of reminds me a little bit of your style as a web designer too. Yeah. Those more like pastel tones, it reminds me of your portfolio, your web design portfolio.
Thanks. Yeah, I just have, I don't know, I have like innate like taste or interest that I'm like always trying to pursue, and like anytime I can do it actually in my job is like a plus. Mm-hmm.
That's what makes a good designer. So what's the biggest project that you've done as an architect, that you've designed as an architect that's actually been built?
Yeah. Let's see. I've worked on like a number of projects that got built, but I wasn't the sole designer on them. I usually had like a smaller piece to them, but due to pain, I have like a number of projects that I'm like really proud of to like just at least be a part of. There's one that I spent a considerable amount of time on that is in construction right now, and I'm like super proud of. I could like share some images if that helps. Projects.
That would be amazing. We're still we're only 8 episodes in, so we are. Let's do it. Share on the fly. Let's see if it works.
Okay.
It's an present, and at the bottom, I think there's a share option. Jeremy is very nervous right now, probably.
Okay, looking at my screen.
Yeah. Oh, so I can bring you in, I think. Yeah, or Jeremy did. Sweet.
Okay, I did not design this website. Projects. So I worked at Due to Pain for I think 3 years. So I can work on a lot of interesting projects. I got to design, at least in the early design phases of this project, which was awesome. This is the first project I worked on at Due to Pain. I got to work on this project, primarily working on a lot of the illustrations. And
Wow,
now
that
it's
looks
built.
amazing.
Yeah, this is like right in the heart of downtown Austin, if anybody's familiar. I love this
Holy
project.
moly.
It's like a jewel on a pedestal. I just love like the form exploration of that one.
Wow.
Um,
What was the thinking behind that concept?
The concept was made before I came into the office, but I think it's really trying to, like, for all of the due to pain projects, especially the taller buildings, it's like the goal is to elevate architecture to more than just like a thing that houses people. It's like a sculpture almost. So like all of our projects are like sculptural in its like design conception. So like my job for a lot of these projects was like actually like taking like blocks of foam and like cutting them and like sculpting them into like beautiful shapes and proportions, and then like you start to add details on top of it. I got to design this one. This was a really exciting project. I actually didn't know that it was moving into construction. I like designed this like shape and form and in like foam blocks, right?
Yeah.
And I got to like
cool.
work on like the 3D model for it, and then it got put
Yeah.
on hold, and I just never heard about it again. And then I saw like on LinkedIn a few weeks ago that it's like actually in construction, and like
That's awesome. That's the cool thing about being a designer, is that your ideas actually turn into something tangible eventually. Hey, we have to finish off the talk about architecture. Nelson was asking, what's your favorite building that you've seen in person and why?
Oh gosh, man, that is a hard one.
Nelson throws in the curveballs.
The Notre Dame Cathedral was pretty mind-blowing. I saw it like a few months before it burned down.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. There's too many buildings. Like every time I go to New York pretty often, and I mean, like it's like the whole city is just mind-blowing. I don't know. It's too hard of a question to answer.
Yeah, well, that's pretty good. You choose you chose a French one, and yeah, my brother still lives there in Paris, and yeah, it's kind of crazy that massive, very old building. Oh, that was insane, and for French people to see it destroyed like that, it was so heartbreaking.
Oh God, I'm sure.
Yeah, and so then you eventually transitioned from being an architect to web design, and got your first job at Duelito. Is that what that was your first one, right? As a UX designer?
Yeah, that's where I got my first big break. I was still working as an architect, and I was moonlighting as a UX designer. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what motivated you? What motivated this transition? And what was the process like to find a first job in a brand new career when you don't have that much experience in it yet?
Yeah. I think like a lot of people during the pandemic, they're really reevaluating their lives and, you know, what they really like see as their future. And I was doing the same. I mean, I was like perfectly happy as an architect. I got like on paper, it's like really cool job. You're designing buildings that people are going to live in or work in. But there's also drawbacks, like pay is low, lots of overtime. You're never certain about your employment. So if there's an economic downturn, architects are usually the first people to leave. And also, you know, like even early in my like architecture education, like I wanted to be a web designer. So I was like, you know what, I'm just going to give it a shot. So I don't know. I worked so hard to get that first job. Every night, you know, like multiple hours after work, working on my portfolio and like learning Webflow and learning design in general, like it's like the first time I like even tried Figma was like maybe like a few months before I got my first job. Yeah, so I moonlighted as a web designer, or I don't know, UX designer for like a month or so, and then I was like, okay, I'm ready to leave architecture. So I left and started doing that full time.
Yeah, that's interesting. And so one thing I was taking from Emily's podcast you said too that was interesting is that you were talking about how UX for architecture and UX for the web have some things in common. All design is related in a way. I was wondering, before we move on to the more technical part of this interview, if you could talk a little bit about that and what are the similarities that you've found or things you've used from your UX work in architecture to your work as a web designer.
Yeah, I mean, I think they translate a lot actually. There's actually a whole community of people just like me who made the transition from architecture to UX, and I think it's called it's called Architechies, and it's thank you. It's called Architechies. The website is architechy.org, I believe, if anybody is architects who are watching this. Amazing resource. They helped me so much. That's actually how I found my first role as UX designer, was through Architechies. The founder was a former architect, so he could like see that there was a I don't know, correlation between the two roles. I mean, yeah, design is like the same. I'm sure if I was like, my next transition was to a graphic designer, I think it would be like smoother transition. I think design is similar no matter the profession because people are similar. And what you're just changing is the medium, but like the design thinking is pretty universal.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Even I mean, I don't do UX design per se, but the thinking and the behind it is pretty universal. And at the end of the day, it needs to be easy for users to use your product, whether it's a building or a website, or even I was talking about UX to Hilary Cluett recently. And we were talking about film, because I used to be a prop master in film and organize trucks so that the props could get to the actors very easily. Mm-hmm. And even though that's not design, I was seeing UX in that as well, because the new one should be able to go in that truck and the way that it was organized. So it should be able to find a specific prop, knowing that things were organized in top categories, then subcategories. So it was kind of like your H1, H2s, and you can kind of see that this UX thinking and so many different fields. I thought it was kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, there's like analytical thinking is universal between like design and I mean like all design professions, but there's also I mean like the aesthetics of like architecture and UX like transfer as well. It's essentially just like a different like end product.
Yeah. So let's talk about more technical stuff now. More design and low-code animation. I was really excited when I saw you do a lot of animation, because that's my favorite thing about Webflow. So first, how long have you been developing in Webflow, and did you ever work with other platforms?
I did not work with other platforms. I think they're
straight to Webflow.
Yeah. They got me early. I actually haven't been using Webflow like so long. So when I left architecture I think I learned about Webflow like 4 months beforehand. I think like the transition from like just interest into like actually getting a job in like Webflow, in the Webflow world, was like 4 months or 5 months. And then I've been working kind of outside of architecture in like the web design world for I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 years. I don't know. My timelines are a little hazy.
What do you remember? What year did you start Webflow? Let's see. You're probably one of the oldies. Like I started in 2017. What was your year?
Probably like 2020. I mean, it was during the pandemic. Yeah, 2020.
Oh, I'm more ancient than you then in Webflow.
I feel like you do, honestly.
So one design question I had was, during your years of studying, did you also do some graphic design a bit, or were you self-taught in that area? Because your design, your web design is really amazing, and I was just wondering if you learned that a bit in school.
Yeah, I mean, as an architect, like you need to have really strong graphic design skills, and
Right.
I think I was like, that was what I was really good at. Like all my presentations were like nice.
Yeah.
You can see my work on my portfolio. Like some of that is student work.
Yeah, you don't think about it as much because you think more about renderings and modeling, but the way to present those as well, you do need those graphic design skills. So I was gonna talk about a couple projects of yours, and the first one. So Jeremy is gonna put on the screen a microsite that we were talking about. This one. So with Savant, which is one, I don't know if I'm saying it right, which is one of the first companies that you worked with when you transitioned to being a web designer. You were doing some microsites for them, and so using Webflow, and obviously Webflow's really fun for animations. You kind of harnessed the power of Webflow animations and did those. I was wondering if you could talk to us a little bit about it.
Sure. Yeah, I got really lucky. So when I first took this job, I think it was my first like real full-time job. Like the ones before were maybe like 20 hours a week, just like freelancing. I think I mentioned in the interview that I was like did web development as well, but I think they were really interested in just having a UX designer. Because they were like, yeah, we already have, developers, like, so you don't really need to do that. But when I started the role, I was like prototyping some like ideas in Webflow, and they were like, whoa, you can just like make this. Like, we don't need to like spend way more time on this project because you can just like implement it instead of like waiting for developers to do it. And yeah, so they're like, just let me roll with it. So like this whole project, like all of the illustrations, the storyboard, the implementation was all like things that I just did myself, remotely. Like I didn't have a manager either. They were just like the VP of design was just like, go for it, Skylar.
That's awesome. What did they use before that?
Oh, they Drupal. And it's like a long, tedious process with like every website that they have is like you have to design, and then there's like a review, and then there's implementation, but then you have to go back to the designer for design changes, and it's just like a much longer process than somebody that could just design it and then implement it at the same time.
Yeah. The other one I wanted to show, I forget, Jeremy, I don't know if you'd be able to go to Skylar's portfolio. Is it skylarkitchen.com?
Yeah.
And then throw that on, sorry, Jeremy, and throw that on the screen. I just had some technical questions about it. It looks amazing. For those of you who've seen it, there's this cool orb with great, there we go. I've noticed the orb comes back a lot in your work because we'll talk about it later, but you find it again in the Webflow community website at the top. But yeah, this is beautiful. And I haven't had time to inspect it, but I was wondering, how did you do the gradients? I find gradients can be tricky.
Yeah, that was 3JS. Yeah, I saw it was like inspired by, I mean, like the design of it, I think is like, I don't know, integral to like some of the ideas that I've had for like a long time in my like architecture work. I don't know, just like really clean, like minimalist, I think is like my aesthetic. But in terms of like technical implementation, it was 3JS. I just like was interested when I had more free time to like explore like different tools. I think like my 3D background allowed me to like understand 3JS like quickly. Also just like watching a ton of tutorials online. It's like to create a sphere and then add noise and then add gradients to that noise is like basically it. And then the background for that to like make it like kind of the same as the orb, like the background is basically like a larger orb.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so just 2 orbs.
Right, because it's so smooth, and I find depending on how you do gradients, it can be so what's the opposite of smooth? I don't know. Sorry, I'm English as a second language, so sometimes I don't know what words to use. And then then for the text, is that all GSAP?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's all GSAP.
GSAP, sorry, another weird.
It was just, I mean, it could be implemented aside from like the single character animation. It could all be implemented in Webflow. I just find that GSAP, it's a bit easier to just make those kind of animations because you can set everything to like a stagger, and you can set like the timelines just a lot easier through code.
When do you use GSAP over Webflow native animations?
I try to keep everything inside of Webflow animations because it's a bit easier to manage. But pretty much any time that I'm like facing a limitation or it just might be easier to do GSAP, I'll write it out. I just really love GSAP. I think it's an awesome tool. And it's just, I don't know, it's so smooth. Like there's like inertia to every animation. And there's just so much options to like just be playful with it.
Yeah, I love it too. I got into it this year, and it's a lot of fun. I feel bad talking about GSAP and saying how awesome it is when we're kind of all under the Webflow umbrella. And I just want to say that I couldn't even do any GSAP if I wasn't using Webflow. So even though I do want to talk a little bit about the limitations, what can you do in GSAP that you can't do in Webflow? It's not me saying that Webflow is bad, because I love Webflow, and again, could not be doing any GSAP without Webflow. So
I think I follow like Timothy Rick's kind of point of view here. I mean, he uses GSAP all the time, but he has no intentions of leaving Webflow. Webflow is a framework to like build on top of. It just makes everything so much easier to implement, and using custom code on top of that is I think totally
it
fine.
just complements it. It's just a way to complement it. Have you found some specific things that you can do in Webflow and native interactions that you can do with GSAP?
Oh, for sure. I don't know, like everything on Tim Rick's tutorials, for instance, they're just like so much easier to implement in GSAP than Webflow native interactions. Not to say that they're, native interactions are fine. I'm always trying to like push the limit of Webflow and web design, and whatever tool gets me there the fastest.
Yeah, and you can do so much with native interactions too. There's some developers that pretty much use just that. I think like Jomar and the the British one. I forget his name. Who was in London like yesterday. Ooh, okay, well, it'll come back to me. Somebody puts it in the chat. I think they use mainly native interactions, but there's one feature of GSAP that I'm interested in and that I haven't used yet, but you can use the media query to I put it there with reduced motion to target when a user has reduced motion on their browser, and then just get rid of the animations, because I know that's one thing that people talk about a lot is Webflow is amazing, but people sometimes go too far in animation and that becomes not accessible. So I haven't gone that far yet, but I really want to start using GSAP because of that, because I can do all the animations I want, and if it has reduced motion enabled, then it will just kill the animations and my set will be accessible. So have you used it out of curiosity?
Yeah, that's a perfect implementation of GSAP. I haven't used it for any current projects because I'm not using GSAP for any of like the community projects that I'm working on right now. But that's just like a really easy solve for reduced motion.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Robert. She did mean Joseph Barry. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he amazing. Yeah, he's always on Flow Party too. I see him. He's so
yeah. I wanna be part of that community a little bit more. Seems like a really fun one.
Yeah.
What's your favorite GSAP plugin?
Just the base GSAP plugin. You can look through the GSAP plugins.
I realize this is getting too technical, maybe, and we'll we don't. Yeah, and we're gonna have to get into the community stuff soon because we're running out of time a little bit. So. Just normal GSAP for me. I mean, like scroll trigger. Yeah.
I tried to introduce some scroll smoothing to the community page, but there's like brand guidelines that I have to follow.
Oh. All right. One last question in the technical part, so we can get to your work at Webflow is, what are some of the features you'd want to see in Webflow, animation or otherwise, in the future?
Yeah, I mean, sorry, the question was what am I hoping to see in?
Yeah, what features do you want to see in the future? Like, I think it would be really cool if the interactions could have a way to know if reduced motion is enabled, and that would be a really cool feature. Webflow putting it out there. But do you have any that you're thinking of?
I think if interactions, I think interactions for me would be like a big improvement. Getting closer to what GSAP is capable of, I think it's just like a matter of time. So is make those gradual improvements. I think that's like a big one for me just because I really love animation. But there's also, I mean, like, there's so many things that require a little bit of custom, like CSS, that could be
right. Yeah, like the Nth child stuff, like those seem like small improvements that people use all the time. That would be a good one to add, or is that what you're thinking of? Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. For me, it's like just a bunch of little improvements, and I don't know. Webflow seems to be making a ton of these little quality of life improvements recently, and like I think people are responding pretty positively. Yeah,
I mean, it's such a big product. It takes time, that's for sure. It's you can't get to all of them at once. I feel like when it was getting really hard to get into the I'm not getting in touch with my brain. It's not working right now. So let's get into the community stuff. So then you got hired at Webflow. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. That was very unexpected. I did not think I would get the job, but I applied anyway. And then, I mean, the answer was obvious that like, yes, I'm going to take the job. Yeah. So the first project I did, first of all, everybody was so friendly and like so excited to have me on the team. I'm part of the community team. The community department and then the education department are kind of glued together. So that means that like McGuire is kind of leading, the education and community team. And then my direct manager is Sarah, who people probably know from the Webflow University videos. I get to work with Greamer a lot too, which is kind of fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Does he make keyboards fly in real life?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, Greamer is like, that is his personality. It's not like or he's not like always like, he doesn't, sorry. He's just like a really funny person. He's not like the oaf like in his character, but he's like super funny, just like off the cuff, like, I don't know, really personable.
That's awesome. It seems like such a good place to work at. And you do, so yeah, you do, what do you do exactly for them? What designs do you work on?
Yeah, so I am the designer for, I guess, like all things community. Although like, some of the work is shared. I mean, there's 4 core designers on the education community team. And my role is really to like help with all things on the community department. So that means like the live streams, for instance. Like I'm working closely with Aaron, who you had on recently. I'm working with Emily Linetto. She's the director of the community team. And then Nelson, who I see in the chat. Matthew Munger is an awesome guy. Yada, I'm sure you'll chat with her eventually. She's amazing. Yeah, just like doing all of the things that would require any kind of design work for the team.
Yeah, so I was going to get into this one. That's one of the big projects you've been working on. And so yesterday I was looking at it. I stared at it for a good like 15 minutes looking at who was going to win this race. And yeah, so we find those circles and orbs and a lot of your work. I feel like there's a but yeah, it was fun to get hypnotized and lost into this hero. But tell us about the community website.
Sure. Yeah, it's a new initiative that we're trying to implement like one piece at a time. So this is like the V1 of the new community hub, I guess. So we have I don't think the old community page was getting like a lot of traction or traffic rather. But not only that, like it wasn't providing like resources for the community that in the way that we wanted. Like we have so many new initiatives that we're working towards right now. There's Yada and Aaron are like new hires and they're doing so many new things for the community. So we want to like bring all this to the community.
Yeah, this website is great. There's so much on there that there's all of the upcoming events are there and grants if some of the communities are interested in applying for grants. Did you did the design? Did you develop it as well?
Yeah.
So I just want to say like that race is rigged because I feel like Keith goes first, like, and it's at circle number 3.
Yeah, where are you? I see Penny. You're here somewhere.
Am I? I wasn't sure.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it's just fun to see all the community in there.
It's random, so every time you refresh, it's like random people that pop up.
Is it? So that's a is that a collection or?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a collection that randomly populates the bubbles.
Right.
Out with that actually, he did like a live stream like a few years ago.
Yeah.
We did something similar.
Keith calls it the racy thingy. So there's another project, community project that you've been working on that I wanted to talk about as well, is the Webflow Lab Figma designs that came out very recently.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So Jeremy, I'm so sorry. I should have sent you that one as well, but it's in the Notion doc if you're able to throw that in as well. But just tell us about it.
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, I just love like projects like this where I get to like actually provide content to the community. Yeah. So Figma to Webflow, it's an amazing plugin made by John, who I just met when we started this, like making these resources. Yeah, so he kind of like he's spearheading the community plugin, and I worked with him to make like a bunch of templates that we could just share with the world, kind of to, I guess, like jumpstart people's I don't know, designs when they are working with the plugin, just to like get the ideas flowing. Like you can use the templates to like replace the content however you see fit, and hopefully it'll make your implementation process a lot faster.
Yeah, that's amazing. Those designs are great. And so those are free Figma designs, right?
Yeah, free. Go ahead.
That's incredible. Free designs from a crazy talented designer. That's thanks, Webflow. That's awesome. And what's coming next that you're working on currently, if you're allowed to talk about?
Yeah, I'm not sure how much I'm allowed to talk about.
Fair enough. Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure I could talk about it, but I don't want to
get in trouble later.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. I should probably leave some room for the questions anyways. Yeah, well, you know what? Let's do that one last question. But what are no? Let's do some questions. Let's bring back everyone and yeah.
There's always so much more that we could talk about.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Do we have any questions from you?
I found it interesting, Skylar. You were talking about I think it's kind of common for people to like start something and realize that that's not the thing that they necessarily want to be like doing, right? And maybe it's a more common thing now, but what do you think about that? Like when you're talking about like changing things up completely, like it can be a scary thing, but like what's your thought process on that?
Yeah. First of all, I'm not sure if I would follow like me as like a good career path, because I've had to restart so many times in my life. And it's been like just I've learned so much. Like I feel like I get to learn a lot more than like the person who had like one track that they follow, which is like the most important thing to me, is that I'm always learning new things and I'm like always challenging myself. So if you're somebody like that, then yeah, feel free to, just go and explore whatever you want to. And then, eventually you'll make it, I'm sure, if you like work really hard. It takes a lot of work.
Yeah, it certainly does.
Yeah.
So what was that process of getting hired at Webflow? How did that come about, and how did steps involved?
I think I just got finished with my new portfolio, which we were showing earlier, like right before I applied. Wasn't particularly looking for new jobs, but I saw on Flow Party that there was a new job that is a head of or senior designer in the community department. I was like, that is the job for me. That is the dream job. So I wasn't really expecting that. I thought there would be like just so many great designers that applied. So I was like, yeah, I'm not going to get it. I didn't even like write a case or a cover letter for the project. Like, here's my portfolio. Call me back if you want me to chat. Then I first person I talked to was Sarah, who was like I recognized from like Webflow University projects. Then I talked to Emily, who I've seen before, and then McGuire, and I was like, what kind of upside down world is this? Where I'm just like these people.
Was that a little intimidating to suddenly all those people you'd been seeing on videos teaching you to be talking?
It's still intimidating, yeah. Yeah, the imposter syndrome runs strong. But I just push through it. Try to make good work and hope that people, like it.
Yeah. Well, and I think the great thing about imposter syndrome is if we are all actually better at what we do than we think we are.
Yeah.
And as long as we don't start believing the imposter syndrome thing, we can get past it.
Yeah, I think
sounds like you have.
That's the key. Yeah, there is just the understanding that this is a natural part of working like an important job, and I think especially people who work remotely and work in design related jobs, I think it's like a very common thing to feel. So just understanding that you're not alone in this, and then just like trying to push it down and just keep on producing things confidently.
Yeah.
Do you know of other Canadian Webflowers that we have not yet interviewed that we should interview next? Have you?
Man, you're getting through all the Webflow team members.
Yeah, all the Canadian ones. That's right. Lots of Canadians at Webflow, eh?
Yeah.
Or people that are using Webflow that you're aware of that are not necessarily working at Webflow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh gosh. I don't know. I'll have to get back to you because
nothing like put them on the spot.
Yeah,
really.
That's usually when you can't find the answer. Sorry about that.
Cool.
Any other last questions in the chat? We'll just see if we've.
Oh, Keith is here.
Keith. I gotta bring that comment up from Keith.
Yes.
There's a lot of discussion about the flannel in the chat today.
Yes. Well, I think people are used to us wearing it. It's when the guest wears it as well that people are like, "Whoa!"
I mean, it would be weird if I was the only one without flannel. I had to.
It would go against the design aesthetic.
Yeah, really, exactly. You're breaking the brand. All right. So, Skylar, how can people find you online? What's the best way for people to connect with you, follow you, see what you're up to?
I'm just not that active, but Twitter for sure. I post like one thing per month. I usually just comment and like things. I'm like very rarely, trying to like get my thoughts out to the universe on anything. I don't know. I'm very much like a heads down person, but I'm like super friendly. Feel free to like reach out to me for like anything, job related or otherwise. Always down to, help people in any way possible. It's like where I find my fulfillment is helping people.
Oh, there was two communities that or at least one that you're very active in that I was going to mention as well, but Flow Party, where you're a bunch as well. People can find you. And also Edgar, Allan, you've been doing a couple of podcasts with them.
Yeah.
And just wanted to give them a shout out as well because they're pretty awesome. Do some
Shout
great
out.
things in the community. Yeah. So those two communities there that you have some connections with.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, Melissa, I forgot to put your the Flow Party in the banners there.
Yeah. I used to work at Edgar Allan for, I don't know, it felt like a brief moment in time because I joined Webflow, and then I just kind of did that full time. But everybody there is so nice. Highly recommend Edgar Allan to anybody.
Excellent. Good.
Definitely.
All right. So that brings us to the end of our 8th Northern Showcase. Can you believe it? We've done 8 of these already. And actually, a week Saturday is the first anniversary of our very first Northern Showcase. So we are officially at that point a year old.
Well, crazy.
We're so excited that all of you guys follow us and share us and check out our streams. And on Fridays, we do have, well, actually, that comes up later. Never mind. There's a protocol to follow here. So we would like to remind you to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and then visit our website at nocodenorth.webflow.io and sign up for our mailing list to receive all of our latest updates. Follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram, and join us on Fridays in the Lodge, which is our cool gather space. And our Lodge hangouts are open to everyone. You don't have to be a Northerner, and you don't even have to wear plaid, but you can if you want.
It's encouraged.
It is, absolutely. And until next time, bye.
Bye.
Take care.